So crazy to me because I'm asked so many times if I'm resentful in any type of way for where the WNBA is.
The WNBA's old guard didn't want to hear what Candace Parker just said, and the league, especially the commissioner, needs to pay attention. It's precisely what Caitlin Clark fans have been yelling all season. Because, despite our hopes that a new season would offer Caitlin and her followers a new perspective, things have only gotten worse. The jealousy is louder, the anger is deeper, and the double standards are more obvious than ever. However, WNBA legend Candace just stepped in and made them all seem silly. It's a straightforward, common-sense fact. Statements that cut through the clutter and put everything in perspective, viewpoint. Perhaps now they will pause and reflect. For if this season has shown us anything, it is that the league becomes louder and more self-destructive the more Caitlin wins. Let's examine Candace's remarks, as they may be the most subdued yet significant retaliation against Caitlin Clark's detractors and the WNBA's establishment. However, first, like this video. For the haters, every like is equivalent to one tissue. After what Candace said, they will need it. Remember to subscribe for more Caitlin Clark and Fever updates. Alright, so what is the significance of Candace speaking up now? Here's the primary cause, though.
Out of women's basketball for a horrible team when she arrived. Outside of LeBron and Steph, she is the most well-known basketball player currently playing in the United States.
Oh, yes. And I don't think that's close.
The WNBA is now growing at an amazing rate, and Caitlin Clark is solely responsible for it. In sports, it's the worst-kept secret. In addition to being the most well-liked player in WNBA history, Caitlin Clark is probably the most well-liked athlete in America overall. Everyone is aware of the previous season's numbers. TV viewership hit a record high, ticket sales skyrocketed, and merchandise flew off the shelves. Each quantifiable metric indicated a single, indisputable reality. Nobody changes the needle like Caitlin, and she's already surpassing it this year. Sold-out arenas with unprecedented attendance. There is no slowing down of the Caitlin Clark effect. It is growing in size.
It is the second highest viewership, which is like average viewership. However, it was the highest peak of any game ever on CBS.
This season, record numbers of fans are tuning in to see Caitlin Clark and the Fever. A preseason exhibition match against Brazil drew 1.3 million viewers. Let that sink in. The preseason game attracted more views than most regular season games could have imagined. Next came the season opener, which drew an average of 2.7 million viewers, making it the most viewed WNBA regular season game in 25 years. Most recently, 3.3 million people tuned in to watch her play the Liberty. However, after she was hurt, everything quickly changed. This season, record numbers of fans are tuning in to see Caitlin Clark and the Fever. A preseason exhibition match against Brazil drew 1.3 million viewers. Let that sink in. The preseason game attracted more views than most regular season games could have imagined. Next came the season opener, which drew an average of 2.7 million viewers, making it the most viewed WNBA regular season game in 25 years. Most recently, 3.3 million people tuned in to watch her play the Liberty. However, after she was hurt, everything quickly changed.
And now that Caitlin Clark is injured, the ticket prices for the Fever and Sky game just plummeted to Hades.
The cost of tickets to Fever games without Caitlin fell by 300%. Additionally, the rest of the league trailed far behind Fever supporters in terms of TV ratings, though I'll address that in a moment. Players, coaches, the league's front office, and everyone else should take note of this. It is anticipated that Caitlin Clark will bring in over $1 billion for the WNBA this season alone, which means one thing. The WNBA may lose all of its momentum. If Caitlin Clark has a major injury, those CBA funds Angel Ree believes a new contract is on the horizon, Nafisa Collier asserts that the players have leverage because, although you may believe you have the upper hand without Caitlyn, the league continues to make mistakes. They tangle themselves in knots, acting as though it's something else, rather than accepting the apparent truth about who is driving this growth. Instead of acknowledging the progress, they continue to steer the discourse away from basketball and onto other topics.
The loudest mics, like I stated, are the ones that's race baiting. Not even bringing up the names, but all the people that I'm seeing that are tied within the WNBA media, coaches, all type of things. They are very resentful of Caitlin Clark, and I don't know why. It doesn't make sense when you have somebody that's doing what she's doing for the WNBA.
Even though the season is just a few games old, Caitlyn and her supporters have already received face palm. After face palm, the mayhem began with just one game. The league opened an investigation into alleged hate speech following the opening match against the Sky, based on what amounted to nothing. However, the harm had already been done. The headlines were stolen rather than commemorating an amazing debut and a league record-breaking event. The narrative was about debate rather than basketball. And once more, Caitlin Clark and her supporters were drawn into a story that was unrelated to what actually transpired on the court.
You even though it's 100% false, by acknowledging we don't condone hate and not seeing that this was a internet rumor founded of complete bullshit, you're lending credence to this. There was none of that.
The myth that Caitlin Clark's support following was nasty and that Indianapolis was unsafe for athletes emerged from that incident. In fact, some demanded that the All-Star game be rescheduled, while others demanded that Dave Portnoy be prohibited from stadia for taunting Angel Reese. In the meantime, the league has said nothing at all on the actual hatred aimed against Caitlin and the Fever. No claims, no evidence, nothing. We've crossed all boundaries. The criticism of the Fever players, particularly Caitlin, extended well beyond the realm of basketball. They went beyond simply disparaging her popularity or her game. They were intimidating and hostile.
The kind of stuff that's being said to them, the stuff that's being said to Kelsey Mitchell, the kind of things that are being said to Natasha Howard are actually wild. People have taken a photo of these women and circled a bullseye on them and have said, "It's on site when I see you." Those are actual threats.
These weren't only offensive remarks. They were real threats, the kind of targeted personal insults you would think the league, particularly one that consistently emphasizes its position on inclusiveness and hate, would at the very least denounce. But instead they made no announcement, offered no defense, and the situation simply grew worse. At this point, Caitlin's assistant coach's baby is being accused of being used as a prop by ex-fans.
Caitlin Clark is getting some of the grossest, most morbid comments, racist, hateful. We're talking the cup runneth over with hate. Here, Kathy Engelbert, you're no space for hate. Where are you right now?
That's correct. The kind of conversation we're dealing with has escalated from criticism to conspiracy, and the league has yet to respond. They're assaulting Caitlin for carrying a baby. Thus, the hatred directed at Caitlin and her followers has completely stopped. It's just gotten worse, if anything. And despite all the data, sold-out games, and record-breaking attendance, there is still opposition to recognizing her influence. And it begins at the top.
Engelbert, in this long, drawn-out article, goes on and gives herself credit for why the WNBA has finally entered some type of mainstream conversation.
In an article for the Harvard Business Review, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert went above and beyond to claim credit and distribute it to everyone except the individual who was most responsible for the league's success: coaches, athletes, front office strategy, marketing teams, etc. She received kudos, but Caitlin Clark received almost no attention.
To new followers and outside observers, our organization's success might seem overnight and even lucky, prepared by a singularly exceptional group of college players coming into the WNBA. However, We could not have capitalized on those advantages without years of hard work and preparation. Years of hard work and preparation. It might have seemed like it came overnight.
She significantly lessened Caitlin's influence compared to a McDonald's fountain drink. Angelbert included Caitlin Clark with Angel Ree and Cameron Brink in the post, stating that when these rookies joined the league, regular season games attracted an average of 1.2 million viewers, a 170% increase over the previous season. However, you, I, and your dog are aware of this. Caitlin's games had an average viewership of 1.2 million. There is a constant rush to give gold stars to everyone but Caitlin, though, because the old guard cannot tolerate that she is receiving all the praise.
Literally, they just can't. They just can't not even wrap their head around. They can't just accept, okay, this person is more popular than me, or this person is more popular than the player that we want to push.
Being envious is a natural human emotion, but what we're witnessing goes beyond that. Somehow, to feel better, you feel the need to knock Caitlin down. Furthermore, much too frequently, people blame racism for her widespread fame, as though it has nothing to do with the fact that she is broken. As a first team, 62 WNBA records. In her rookie season, the All-Star pulled a bottom-dwelling team into the playoffs and finished 4th in the MVP voting. It's crazy because, whether they like to acknowledge it or not, Caitlin Clark's contributions are improving things for everyone. When she is the center of attention, the league as a whole is also highlighted.
When they play in these arenas where there are 15 to 20,000 people in the stands, they are in front of people that they haven't been in front of before. That is an opportunity for all of us fans to get to know all the players on the court, all of the players in the WNBA, to pick new favorite players, to pick other teams that we want to follow along.
Legends, whose stakes have already spoken out against it. One of the most revered voices in women's basketball, and a Hall of Famer, is Lisa Leslie. After she exposed the jealousy around Caitlin Clark, Mike essentially quit the WNBA.
I think it's all about money, marketing, and we cannot deny what Caitlin Clark has done for the women's game. I'm not going to act like it's something that we don't see. She's had a huge effect called the Caitlin Clark effect. Yes, have we ever had teams have to get into larger arenas to play against a team? No, we have not. So if we have more eyeballs on the game and Caitlin Clark brings that, why would we feel some kind of way because she has more television games?
However, the pushback is still going on. The league needs some common sense once more, and it appears that only the old guard and legends, who truly recognize how unique this moment is, can provide that reality check. Candace Parker is as traditional as they come. 3-time WNBA champion, 2-time league MVP, and 2-time gold medalist at the Olympics. One of the most accomplished, well-respected, and perceptive athletes the WNBA has ever seen, she joined Stephen A. Smith on First Take action that nearly no one else in the league has dared to do. Deal with the elephant in the room.
Ultimately, it comes down to the fact that there were an abundance of women in the WNBA doing tremendous work on behalf of the WNBA and the game of basketball, and you just sensed that folks were feeling an absence of appreciation.
Now that Stephen A. Smith deserves his due, he hasn't held back from speaking his mind. He is among the few popular voices that are willing to use the word envy. Fans have seen. Everyone who is now watching the WNBA can sense it. Additionally, he gave Nefa Collier, who had complained about Caitlin receiving more nationally broadcast games, a logic bomb on First Take.
Then this dude named Michael Jordan came along. And Michael Jordan came along and he wasn't yet winning championships, but his popularity was so astronomical that the NBA practically marketed everything they could around this guy. So to know that there's an example like that as a shining example to be followed that could benefit the league, particularly down the road, why is that an issue when we've seen that such a marketing plan has worked in the past?
This was not your typical softball interview. There would be pushback, no sidestepping, no evasion, just getting right to the point in this setting. This was not your typical softball interview. There would be pushback, no sidestepping, no evasion. Just getting right to the point in this setting.
Speak to that collective frustration that some may have been feeling, and whether or not you think it's something that's being overcome as you all thrive and move forward and continue to promote and uplift this.
What we received from Candace was one of the most collected, considerate, and rational answers to date. The kind of reaction that caused Caitlin Clark admirers everywhere to exclaim, "Exactly!"
It's so crazy to me because I'm asked so many times if I'm resentful in any type of way for where the WNBA is right now. My job was to leave the game better than I came into it. You think Cheryl Miller is resentful for me that I had a league to play in? No, she's being the mentor that she is, and she's supporting and loving and sitting courtside cheering on Juju Watkins. And I'm doing the same for Caitlin Clark and all the women in the WNBA.
Did you notice it first? Was a Picasso of logic, a masterwork in perspective, and there will be more. Candace claimed that she is frequently questioned if she harbors resentment toward Caitlin Clark. That single sentence encapsulates the depth of WNBA jealousy. Consider that one of the most accomplished athletes in league history is being approached by media insiders who want to know if she is envious of Caitlin Clark. It provides all the information you require, but Candace, the appropriate response, which ought to be the norm. It's not about being envious of who's next, she stated. Getting the game to a point where it is prepared for the next big star is the goal. You don't need to minimize Caitlin. She's lightning in a bottle, and you don't have to act like her success is a coincidence or dismiss that. Instead, support her since it's beneficial for everyone, and take pride in having created the platform. Candace wasn't finished either. Although, she didn't say everything exactly. She made it apparent that she was criticizing the noise, particularly the racial talking points that have been subtly, and occasionally not so subtly, undermining Caitlin's ascent.
I tuned in when Kevin Durant went back and played Russell Westbrook, and they bumped shoulders and everybody was tuned in, but I want to keep it within the lines of the game. And I think that's what's the most important. Now everybody has a Twitter finger. Everybody can have reach to, the WNBA and make comments. But really the key is let's keep it about basketball. That's my thing. And when we do that, then we're able to really grow the game and what it represents.
You read about the WNBA and how trolls on Twitter continue to criticize the sport. They are merely highlighting the WNBA in the worst possible light as a league that is ripping itself apart from the inside out and unable to celebrate its greatest moment without devolving into a culture war. They are not creating anything.
They want to paint the narrative that it's a white and black thing going on, and now that toxic energy is spilling over to people who don't even watch the game. So now they feel like they are a part of the league just because they know or feel like they know what's going on with the race thing. And cut it out, man. You all want the league to grow, but you all saying keep it about basketball, but y'all not keeping it about basketball. I don't get it.
Caitlin Clark has expanded the game to a level the WNBA has never seen before by simply going out there, performing, and giving the fans exactly what they came to see. Her actions have never been motivated by color. Regarding other players, fans, or the legends that came before her, there has been no animosity or disdain. She has actually always been respectful, appreciating the competitors, crying out to her teammates, acknowledging the players who paved the way, and demonstrating true humility at every turn. She is uplifting the entire sport, not bringing anyone down. To Lisa Leslie's remarks regarding her reverence for the game's legends.
And I love that. I love that she's not the player who's it's all about her. It's not. She's giving love and homage to those of us that have come before her. She shares the wealth with her teammates, and she doesn't have to do that.
This isn't from a third party. Is from a pioneer who helped create the WNBA. And now, Candace Parker is reiterating the attitude that each player ought to possess. To allow players like Caitlin to carry on, leave the game in a better state than when you arrived. The torch, just as she used to. This is how it operates. Luka and SGA are similar to how Bird and Magic led to Jordan, who in turn led to Shaq, Kobe, and LeBron. In order for the following generation to shine even brighter, each generation advances the game.
But now, because of visibility, listen, I still know the Dominique Wilkins. I still know, all of those players, the Dr. J's and all that stuff. I don't think they're not salty that MJ came along and grew the game. I mean, that's what it is.
Lastly, Candace discusses the necessity for the league to improve, since it's not only about Caitlin Clark at this time, it concerns the league's future. Candace discusses the necessity for the league to improve, since it's not only about Caitlin Clark at this time, it concerns the league's future.
The WNBA as a whole is in an amazing place. Now it's about business to me.
Ultimately, it comes down to business, and Candace is aware of this. Caitlin Clark excels at more than just highlight reels. When it comes to business, she is amazing.
Have a good product, and your biggest hurdle is getting people to sample the product. She's a godsend. There's no denying it.
They just had a nasty awakening when Caitlin Clark was hurt. If they believe they have the leverage heading into the next CBA without her. However, keep in mind that I mentioned the Fever supporters were surviving. That is crucial in all of this. Look at this. They just had a nasty awakening when Caitlin Clark was hurt if they believe they have the leverage heading into the next CBA without her. However, keep in mind that I mentioned the Fever supporters were surviving. That is crucial in all of this.
Indiana Fever's matchup on Friday versus the Sun drew 851,000 viewers, becoming the most viewed WNBA game on ION this season despite Caitlin Clark's absence.
Despite not having Caitlin Clark, the Fever continue to attract large crowds. That's not the issue though, even though they aren't Caitlin Clark figures. It demonstrates the initial stages of the Caitlin Clark effect, which will eventually extend to the entire WNBA if the league is wise. However, you must give it time. It takes years to bring about this kind of cultural change, but when it is done well, it creates the groundwork for the next big thing, the person who will push it even beyond. The WNBA is currently experiencing its most crucial period of expansion, and the league must avoid wasting it. This entails welcoming the new fans, honoring their star, and maybe most critically, keeping her safe on the court. To do this, the officiating must be tightened and made at least fair, because you cannot allow players to take advantage of your golden goose with no repercussions. This ecology, which is on the verge of collapsing, has a better chance of stabilizing the more individuals like Candace Parker stand up and take action. The key question at hand is whether the league will eventually come to terms with it, or if their failure to embrace Caitlin Clark and the millions of fans she has brought with her will be the thing that keeps them back indefinitely. Drop a goat in the comments if you're still here, since that's exactly what you get for remaining. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you soon.